Alright, let's see if this works. I'm gonna keep trying because that's just how I am. Okay. Okay, this should be okay, at least. So I'm gonna keep the sound on my different screen just for a little bit. But let's try again. Okay, the sound sucks just a little bit. It really does. But that's okay. Can't always have what you want in life. But let's see in this slow set review of Kamigawa. In the previous attempt I had a problem with the microphone, but right now we will try again. So first off we have Kaido Shizuki. It's a 3-mana legendary planeswalker that enters with 3 loyalty counters, and at the beginning of your end step Kaido will phase out and then come back in again. Sort of, I think, to have him be protected a little bit, or just to make him seem like a ninja. Then you can draw and then discard unless you have attacked, so a sort of raid ability, showing that Kaido can be really aggressive in his work. And then you have a -2 where you make a 1/1 unblockable ninja. These are necessary because Kaido works with ninjutsu, and ninjutsu likes unblockable creatures because only when a creature is unblocked you can ninjutsu them in. Then his ultimate is a -7 where you get an emblem which says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may search a library for any blue or black creature card and put it onto the battlefield and then shuffle. So that is a really strong ability, because in this way you will have a lot of value and you can get anything you want. So that is basically a tutor, or it is a tutor whenever you get to attack with one of these unblockable 1/1 ninjas. So you can get a lot of those as well. Then we have his boss Satoru Umuzawa, who is a 3-mana 2/4, where his ability is whenever you activate a ninjutsu ability, you may look at the top 3 cards and put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom, which is important because some other ninjas work with the top of the library as well. And then every card that you put into your hand will get the ability of ninjutsu for 4 mana, meaning that you can ninjutsu in any Eldrazi or Praetor that you want. Not sure if Satoru works with the Praetor here. We know that some of the Reckoners do, but we haven't really seen Satoru in any way. So that's a lot of missing story. Is he okay with this, or we don't know. Then we have the Praetor himself, Jin Gataxias, who is a 5/5 Praetor, and Praetors always have a sort of ability that lets you double something and your opponents do something only half as well. This isn't exactly how that works in this case, because this 5/5 lets you double any artifact, instant or sorcery, but your opponent gets their first one countered. So that's not always half. Might be everything they can do that gets countered, or it might just be a small part of it, but still that is a lot of value. They will get at least one spell less, and you get well, twice as many. So I would say play this with big spells, because it only the doubling ability only triggers for your first one as well. So it's sort of a symmetrical effect at least, but not really the double and half thing. Then we have the Dragon Cycle. These are 5 or 6 sort of spirit dragons, but the 5 that are alive and resurrected have a ability that when they die you may choose one of 2 abilities, and all of them have flying, and they all also have one other keyword. So first one, Ao the Dawn Sky, is a 5 mana 5/4 flying with Vigilance, and when this one dies, you may look at the top 7 cards and reveal 4 mana or less of creatures or permanents that are not lands and put them onto the battlefield. So it's not really ramp. You can do it, well, it can be ramp if you put artifact mana onto the battlefield, but otherwise you will use these for mostly smaller creatures that you can get in then. Okay, just checking that. So when this one dies, that's the most important part. You may look at the top 7 cards of your library and put any number of non-land permanent cards with total mana value 4 or less onto the battlefield, or you put 2+1 counters on each creature and each vehicle. So this one works with vehicles, and we kind of see it in the mechanical style of the alternate art as well. One important thing to mention is we will go by the cards by rarity, so we are starting with the mythics right now. Next up we have Junji the Midnight Sky. This is a more sleek dragon, which is cool. This one has menace as well. People will be scared of this dude, and their ability is your opponents discard 2 cards, which is a lot, and lose 2 life, which is of lesser value, but you can also put a non-dragon card from a graveyard onto the battlefield and you lose 2 life, but any creature that's not a dragon can still be a strong creature. Then we have Gura the Green one. This one also, like the previous one, doesn't have anything to do with mechanics or mechs, I mean, like artifacts maybe. This one is about lands. This one also has Death Touch, so probably one to really get in there and try to kill one other creature off. Doesn't seem like a toxic one, but well, maybe that's what it wants you to think. You can ramp for 3 land cards, can be any of them, and put them into your hand though, so not really ramp, sorry. Or you can create a spirit creature token that's as big as the amount of lands that you have. Kairi is a well, the blue dragon. They have ward, so they are protected, which is necessary because this one is 6 mana, which is a lot. But it can also get in for more damage, 6 damage. And their dying ability is that they can help you return non-land permanents to their owner's hand, so sort of bounce. Or you can mill 6 cards, which is a lot of cards, and then return 2 instants. So you probably will have some instants in there then. And return them to your hand, so you can use them later. Then we have Kyodai, which is not really from the cycle, but is still a dragon spirit, so I wanted to include it here. It's the one that is dying, it's the one that has been around for so long, and it's probably dying because his Empress was away. This one is a 33, it enters with Flash, and then it protects one of your creatures with Indestructible. And for 5 mana of all colors, so white, blue, every color once, of course, you can give it +5/+5, meaning it will be an 8/8, which is a lot of damage, and if it's your commander, which would be a little bit weird, well, that's probably going to kill your opponents in 3 turns. Not too good or anything. We have the Wandering Emperor, which is pretty good, because it has the ability of Flash, which seems weird on a Planeswalker, but the Emperor also can use her ability right away as an instant ability. So what this means is that you can either put a +1 counter on a creature and give it first strike, could be good in instant speed. You can exile a target tapped creature, which you probably don't mind too much, but if someone is attacking you or something, you can use the Emperor, or you can create a 2/2 with Vigilance, which can sometimes surprise your ones from your opponents. But well, you probably, if you can use the first strike thing, then that's good, and then later you can use the -2 to exile another attack creature that attacked or something. Then we have this one that I found cool, that I wanted to put in between the Planeswalkers. It's one of the sagas that, well, let's go through them. You have exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls, so we can see that something has been stolen from the Kamis. Then you may return one permanent to their owner's hand, and then each opponent discards a card, and then you may exile this saga and return it transformed as Okagachi, which is the sort of father dragon or father spirit. It is all colors, it's a 6/6, it is flying and trample. You see the sort of yellow border around it that can be in 4 or 5 different colors. 6/6 flying and trample, definitely something that can win you games, but it also gets +X+O, which makes it even deadlier, where X is the mana value of a card that your opponent had to choose from your graveyard when Okagachi attacked, and you got to return that card to your hand as well. So you can play big stuff in your deck, and then only ramp or something, and then you can well, get this Okagachi to become really strong. I would mostly use the card for the exile ability, and that might not mean that you want to be in all colors for just a good exiler. So no. Tezzeret is our next Planeswalker, the Betrayer of Flesh. He helps you activate artifact abilities because he makes them 2 mana cheaper. His +1 is draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards or an artifact card, which is great card value for 4 mana, so this is a really strong card. Target artifact becomes an artifact creature. If it's not a vehicle, it now gets to be a 4/4. And why would you do that to a vehicle? Well, the strong thing is that then you will not have to crew it again. It also doesn't say until end of turn, so the vehicle will stay a creature. Then the -6 is you get an emblem with whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped, mana rocks as well, you may draw a card. That is draw your whole deck probably. We have Tamiyo, who is sadly completed, or well, maybe some Phyrexian fans think otherwise, of course. What this means for the card is that one of their mana you can pay with with green, blue, or 2 life. But if you use this completed mana, or well, if you use life to pay this completed mana, Tamiyo enters with 3 loyalty counters, where otherwise you would enter with 5. So for 1 mana, that's not too steep of a price. Because then you will be closer to your -7, which is only 3 turns away. It's a Tamiyo's Notebook that you get, colorless artifact that can be removed, with spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, and really fast because you have a lot of tempo value, the card value. But what I would do is look at what you need from the -X, because exile target non-land permanent with mana value X from your graveyard, and you may create a token or a copy token. So if you need a 4 or 5 mana one, then you might want to pay mana, and otherwise if you need a smaller creature from your graveyard, well, you can use life to play Tamiyo. So interesting choice. I like the mechanic itself. It is said that she has turned, but well, if too many people are angry at our friends Planeswalkers turning into Phyrexians, they might think of some reason to turn them back, but you probably wouldn't want that either. What I think is interesting in the art is that, well, in the normal art you see that Tamiyo is using a sort of, well, maybe hologram, and in the alternate art, you can see that her scrolls are crumbling away. And another interesting part about the alternate art is that she has a sort of tattoo of the Phyrexian symbol on her shoulder. So that's cool. Nice design from Terada Katsuya. Her +1 is tap up to 1 target artifact or creature, and it doesn't get to untap, so a freeze for that part. That is really slow, but does help you protect Tamio, so that is an important part for any Planeswalker. What I mostly like is that you can get tokens back. I think you will want to use Tamio for that, and otherwise the flavor is really cool. We then have the Emperor again. We've went through them. We have Kodama of the West Tree, a 3-mana 3/3 with reach, so it's a 3-mana 3/3. That's a 3. It says that creatures with an equipment on them, auras or counters on them, so modified creatures, have trample, and whenever they deal combat damage, which they will do more easily because they have trample, search your library for a basic land, put it into the battlefield tapped. So that's insane. Yeah, I think green will be really strong, and it will be all about ramp, and we will see that in some other cards as well. No, yeah, that's really cool that she has the Phyrexian symbol, and I hope that they will do that with the other people that will get completed as well. If they are there, I think they will be, because we need 3 more Praetors, and we need more cards to use the completed ability. We then have a cool card, which is Hidetsugu Consumes All, and the Vessel of All Consuming. And again, the alternate art has the neon signing around it, which means that you will be able to get it in 5 colors. What the saga does is you may destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. This is because Hidetsugu has a demon that he is working for and with, and they are the Oni of consuming things, of hunger, and they mostly eat the weaker people. So Hidetsugu feeds the demon the weak people. Then you can exile all graveyards, showing that Hidetsugu really eats everything, even dead stuff. And then you can exile this, and you can return it as the Vessel of the All-Consuming, which sort of says that it's not Hidetsugu anymore, it's just the Vessel of the Demon of the All-Consuming. It's a 3/3 with trample, so you have only paid 3 mana for this, and in 3 turns it's 3/3 with trample, which is good already. Whenever it deals damage, put a +1 counter on it, so doesn't need to be against your opponent, can be against anything. Then if it has dealt 10 or more damage to a player this turn, they lose the game. So give it 2 +1 counters, give it double strike, and you win the game. Or, well, the other player loses the game, which means that in multiplayer formats this will not be instant, but there are way more other ways to deal damage, so that is interesting. Yeah, I think really cool, and it really shows the sort of emotional significance of the story. I think the best in the original art from Chris Gold, who is an amazing artist that makes really dark art, and you can see it here as well. We have another Dragon Spirit that should have been up earlier. This one is Atsushi, the Blazing Sky, a 4-mana one that is a 4/4 with flying and trample. And this one, when it dies, you may exile 2 cards from your library and play them, or create 3 treasure tokens, meaning that this one will have been really cheap, and it will give you the sort of ramp that red can only do. Then I have put in all the neon versions of Hidetsugu in here, because I wanted to show you what it was like. So here you see that the version has 5 different versions, and I think that's cool. So what they do is for 1 black mana you may sacrifice a creature and scry 2, which is well, makes me think of the Theros one for 3 mana, that you could do this as well, but then you didn't have to pay. But the other thing is for 3 mana you can exile the top card of your library, you may play it this turn. So that's the red part of it, the sort of chaos part of the Devouring Chaos. But also you can play it, sure, but you can also deal damage to any target equal to the exiled card's mana value. So you won't know what it is, but you can deal a lot of damage with it. So it's sort of the Chandra vibe of blowing everything up in there as well. So that's cool. We have the lands, which I like to look at just after the mythics, and then we will go to the rares. These are the sort of alternate lands, and we can see some important places, as well as some world building, as to see that there are gloomy places in the swamp, which is often what swamps do. We see the Jukai Forest with sort of the fox houses here, which is cool. They mostly don't live here anymore, so this might be a maybe deserted town. And here we see a dragon in the background of this one with spirits that are from the dragon. So that's really well made as well. We have the plains, which really show us in what kind of world we are in. Then continuing with these, we see more swampy stuff, more of the fox towns. We see some waterfalls, and you can really see the art style that they went for. We have, maybe the signs are, by the way, equal to red, or maybe the colors, or maybe like sun or something, and water, or I don't know. We see mountainous areas, of course, and well, plains can be cities as well in Kamigawa. Then we go on to the rares. First one is a ninja with a hand that can also eat. We see that the mechanic of this one is ninjutsu. It enters with a menace counter on it, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may remove a menace counter from the ninja. And when you do that, they reveal their hand, and you choose a non-land permanent from it to exile, so they lose the card, of course. Interesting, because a creature with mana of a menace with menace will be able to help you get in other ninjutsu creatures, so you really have to think about this one. And then we go on to the cities or places that are the legendary lands here, the rare legendary lands. The first one is the green one, Boseiju, who endures. So this is about the tree that has been there for a long time. And we can see that even though their roots are out of the ground, they still endure. They tap for 1 green mana, they don't enter tapped. And for 2 mana you may discard the card, so you don't have to play it, you can discard the card immediately. And then destroy an artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land from an opponent. They may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, which is a weird wording. Put it onto the battlefield and then shuffle. The ability costs 1 less for each legendary creature you control. So if you control 2 creatures, or 1, this one will cost only a green mana, and you throw away a land. But yeah, that's an interesting ability. We have Ottawara, the soaring city, the flying city where people learn stuff. This one has the same ability of channel, which works with legendary creatures, but this time you discard it to return an artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. So Boseiju destroys their artifact, and then you get it back with Ottawara. So Genzan, Crucible of Defiance, is a rebel city where the channel ability says that you create 2 spirits. They gain haste. That's it. I wouldn't do that. A Ganyo, Seed of the Empire, lets you deal 4 damage to an attacking or blocking creature. The ability costs 1 less for each legendary again. Not too good. I think the green one is the best, and maybe the blue one. Up to now, we have the Takanuma, which says mill 3 cards, then return a creature card or a planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. Not amazing, but it's okay. And you have to keep in mind that these could maybe all just cost 1 mana. Then we have Lion Sash, an equipment cat. So we see a lot of equipments that are also sort of creatures, and these have the ability of reconfigure, which means you can attach it. It will be sort of equipped, and then when you unattach it, you will have this one back as a creature. So as a creature, it's a 1/1 where you can exile a card from a graveyard and then put a +1 counter on Lion Sash, and then if you equip it for 2 to a creature or attach it, then they get a +1 for each +1 counter on the Lion Sash as well. So yeah, interesting. The Sash says that well, it's a sort of ramping thing where your creature will grow a lot. It also is nice graveyard hate, so this is a really strong card, and the flexibility of being able to put this on a creature as an equipment is really amazing. So that says a lot. So, had to check the sound again. We have another cycle, which is the Invoke cycle. These are cards in 1 color that are really meant to give the color more identity. So that will be interesting, definitely, for Dice Try. We have a neon version of these as well. The instant says, for 5 mana you may cast up to 2 instant and or sorcery spells with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard and or hand without paying their mana cost. That's a lot of value. Then, if those spells would be put into your graveyard, you may exile them instead. Or you have to. And then you also exile Calamity. The interesting part, of course, that you pay 5 mana to play 6 mana of cards, and you get your stuff back from the graveyard if you are able to. Really cool art as well, with all the swords flying out of the Rebel City. We have Invoke Justice, where we see some badass mechs. This is the white one. Instead of playing more cards, which was 4 counters on creatures or vehicles. That sucks. Comparing to the red one, I mean. Invoke Despair is a thing where you see that the sort of, well, rats and murky water is going out to grab people, and you can also see them swimming here, taking a swim, which is cool that they found, well, a nice leisurely thing to do. The card says for 5 mana you target the opponent sacrifices a creature, and otherwise they lose 2 life and you draw a card. Then repeat for an enchantment and a planeswalker. So if you can target those 3 things, this is strong. Otherwise, probably overcosted. Goro, the disciple of Ryusei, is a disciple of the dragon spirit. The Goblin Samurai has the ability of giving all your creatures haste, which is damn. And then for 5 mana, wow, you can create a 5/5 with flying, a dragon spirit. So you sort of make the mentor of this goblin. But you can only activate this if you control an attacking modified creature with a +1 counter or an equipment on it. Then we have a Ganyo Uprising, which has really cool art. You can see that the white aligned people and the red aligned people here are working together, which really makes me think that there should be more story. So maybe we'll get that. But the flavor says 2 different visions of freedom, so they both want freedom, but they want it in a different way, clashed at the gates of the Imperial Palace. Oh, they were not working together, they are fighting each other. The spell says you create X for the amount of mana that you paid, white samurai creature tokens, and each opponent creates X -1 2/2 white samurai tokens as well with vigilance instead of the menace and haste from you. So interesting. These are both white samurai, but yours are probably the red aligned ones. So that's interesting to me. In the alternate art, you can see that the Emperor is sort of fighting the rebel leader, and in the background you see 2 mechs doing the same. So I really like that part. Then you have the Blade of the Oni, so a demonic blade. It's also a demon on its own. It's a 3/1 with menace, but you can equip it, and the creature you equip it to becomes a 5/5 with menace and will be a black demon. So you can definitely, this is amazing to put on your small creatures. Let's keep it at that. I think this will be really strong in draft-like formats. We have Nashi Moon Sage's Scion. I also see that these were mythics. The 4 mana ninjutsu ability, that's a lot to pay, so let's look at the creature. When it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library. So probably you want to play the card for this. Until end of turn you may play one of those cards. So one of those cards. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So you can definitely get something strong out if you have dealt damage with this one, which will be easy because it has ninjutsu, so it can get in at the place of any attacking non-blocked creature. Also, I saw some people saying that they missed the amount of motorcycles. Well, these are definitely here, as you can see. Spirit Sister's Call is a call from the old Spirit Dragon. It's a white and black enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, choose target permanent card in your graveyard. You may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with the chosen card. If you do, return the chosen card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it gains. If this permanent would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. So you can't keep doing this cycle through 2 cards every time. You will have to keep this one or it will get exiled. But you can do it twice. So that's one thing. But I think you mostly want to use it to get in something else that's really strong. And it says that the old Spirit Dragon sacrificed themselves to maybe resurrect the new ones. And what I find interesting is that we haven't seen this in the story either. So I really expect some more of that. Lizard Blades is a lizard 1/1 with double strike, or the equipped creature gets double strike. Interesting, it's 2 blades, so that says this one has double strike. Yeah, could be good. Definitely want to play this together with the all-consuming hunger, because you want to give it double strike and you want to deal 10 damage with it. March of Otherworldly Light is a really cool art. It's really, yeah, so you can see that these are spirits, so they are really mystical in their ways. A head that is floating above a body, a girl that is, well, taken away by the speed of this thing. It's a white and X instant. You may exile any number of white cards from your hand to pay 2 mana extra for this one. And then you may exile an artifact, creature, or enchantment with mana value X or less. So, yeah, could be good. Well, it will be good, but there have been better things. But it's strong, efficient. not efficient. We can see that this is a cycle, at least. Let's just go on. Of multiple spirits that are walking around or marching. The red one is also an expel. I think all of them are. And the thing about exiling red cards from your hand instead of white ones still holds as well. Then you may exile the top X cards of your library and play up to 2 of those cards until your end of your next turn. So the next turn is probably when you play those. Or you can just pay 3 and get 2, so you still will get 2. The March of Wretched Sorrow is one where you can see that these are really sort of deadly spirits. Still the lamps that are going around as well. That's interesting, maybe the spirits are aligned with those lamps. The same thing goes, and then the X is it. The Sorrow deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life. That's a white ability. March of Burgeoning Life is a fish one, fish-based march, and you can see that they are always carrying something in these cards, and in this previous one, they were carrying a house. So that's a lot to carry. This one, you choose target creature with mana value X or less, and you search your library for a creature card with the same name as the creature and put it onto the battlefield. So it doesn't work in Commander. Well, good, but probably not. And but could be really strong for other creatures because you get it onto the battlefield. But you will have to have played it already. So yeah, it's a win more kind of situation. Mech Titan Core. I found this one to be really interesting. The Mech Titan Core, you can see that this one is going for battle. It's a 2/4 as for 2 mana, which you can crew for only 2. But for 5 mana you can exile this one and 4 other artifacts, so that's a lot of artifacts. But you will get a 10/10 with Flying, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, and Haste. That's all colors. When it leaves, you get all the other artifacts back. Not this one, but the other ones. So use a lot of useless artifacts, and then you can get a 10/10 pretty fast. I mean, play an artifact, play 2 artifacts, play an artifact, play an artifact, play Mech Titan Core, and then you can pay 5 to do this already. That's if you are a dedicated artifact deck, this might be possible. Kotose, the Silent Spider, is a girl that is silent and a spider. When they enter the battlefield, you may exile target card in an opponent's graveyard other than a basic land card. Why? Search the player's graveyard hand and library for otherwise you can exile all their lands. Search everything, and then you may exile those. For as long as you control Kotose, you may play one of the exiled cards. And you may spend mana of any color. But that's interesting. You can sort of stop a player's combo with this, which I like those kind of cards. But you will also get the card back, so you can choose anything that's strong, and then you can play them for yourselves. So really the Dimir kind of thing. You can see why this silent spider with her butterflies flying around her is good at stealing things. And maybe actually she's stealing from Tamio, because she uses these holograms, exactly these. Or other moon people. Mindlink Mech is a 3 mana 4/3 with flying. You only have to crew it for 1. When it becomes crewed for the first time each turn, the Mindlink becomes a copy of target non-legendary creature that crewed it this turn. So you can crew this with anything, and this Mindlink Mech will become the same as those, but they will be a bigger version. As you can see here, which is really cool, and here as well, they are a bigger version of another mech. It's a vehicle artifact in addition to its other types, and it has flying. So this is an amazing 3 mana and then only crew 1, and it becomes a copy of anything, and it's a 4/3 with flying. Damn, that's insane. That's really good for the ninja deck as well. We have Cloud Steel Kieran, which I think we have seen before, but this is a 3/2 with flying, and you can equip the creature equipment so that another creature has flying, and you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. They can still lose though, but you can't. So that is really cool. It does cost 5 to reconfigure this card, but then it will be really annoying for your opponent to deal with. They will have to destroy the artifact sometime. Lightpass Emperor's Voice is a 2 mana Fox Advisor with 7 tails? 7 tails? Well, the foxes on Kamigawa get more tails the more wise they become. So that is why they have so many tails. And you can have 9 at the most, and I don't think that there is anyone that has 9 at this moment. But whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, if you cast it, you may search the library for an aura card with a mana value less than or equal to the aura, and with a different name than each aura you control. You may put the card onto the battlefield attached to Lightpass Emperor's Voice. Then shuffle. Any artifact you can attach the artifact to Lightpass. Oh, so then when Lightpass is destroyed, the enchantment will always go away as well. So that's kind of why they say this. But what happens with the enchantment sagas here? Because they are exiled from Lightpass and then they return. Interesting. So she can sort of bring stories to life. Maybe that is sort of what this one says. Soul Transfer is a 3 mana sorcery that lets you transfer a soul. How do you do that? You may choose to exile a creature or planeswalker, or return a creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. But if you have an artifact and an enchantment, you may choose both. That's a lot of value. That is way stronger than the 5 mana white card. Okay, Ishin, 2 heavens as 1, is a 3 mana human samurai that is maybe, well, not really on the side of the rebels and not really on the side of the empire. Or maybe he is on his own, that might be a thing as well. But what he says, if a creature attacking would cause a triggered ability of a permanent you control that costs 1 less to cast for each target. I assume that is for each spell they could target, or for each creature that they could target, something like that. Or you are planning to target, I don't know. Spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast for each target. For each target? What's target? But that is interesting. Maybe you want to use some big spells that you can target a lot of creatures with. Wanted to check sound. Reckoner Bankbuster, which sounds good, and sounds good to say, try it out, is a 4/4 vehicle that you have to crew 3 with, so this should be a good one. It enters with 3 charge counters on it. For 2 mana you may remove a charge counter and draw a card. Then if there are no more charge counters, you create a treasure token and a 1/1 pilot creature token with this creature crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. Okay. So you remove a charge counter, you draw a card, and then if the 3 are out of there, you get a treasure and a pilot that can crew this vehicle. Interesting. So it will sort of shoot it out or something. It has busted the bank, and now it has the ability to give you the culprit. Weaver of Harmony is a snake that has lost their legs. It's the first Naga that we see. A 2-mana enchantment creature, which you can put on the fox, which is cool. Other enchantment creatures you control get +1/+1, so it's a sort of lord for them. And then for a green, you may copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an enchantment source. Triggered abilities as well, so these can be used on sagas. You may choose new targets for the copy. Invoke the Winds is another invoke card, a sorcery, a blue one, gain control of target artifact or creature, untap it. So the strongest, basically. Of course, it has to be blue. Inventive Iteration and Living Breakthrough is another saga that will return as a creature. This one, for 4 mana, return up to 1 target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. Bounce. Return an artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So, sort of value. Otherwise, if you can't, draw a card. Exile the saga, and then it becomes Living Breakthrough. A flying 3/3. Whenever you cast a spell, your opponents can't cast spells with the same mana value as that spell until end of turn. So sort of preventive countering. Fable of the Mirror Breaker of Kiki. Fable of Kiki would sound really cool though. Which turns into Reflection of Kiki Jiki. It's a 3-mana spell that lets you create a 2/2 red Goblin Shaman creature token with whenever this creature attacks, create a treasure token. So you get a lot of treasure from Kiki. You may discard up to 2 cards. If you do, draw that many cards. So you may also discard 1 and draw 1. Or 0. Then it becomes the Reflection of Kiki Jiki, who is still around. A 2-mana creature with, for 1 mana, create a token. That's a copy of another target non-legendary creature you control. Whoa. It has haste as well, but you have to sacrifice it. So it can create anything, any creature. That's not legendary. I think that's strong. Will you be able to use all the combo things with Kiki Jiki? I don't think so, right? Or can you? Yeah, I think you can. There's another, but you will need to finish the saga, of course, so it's not that combo-tastic. Okay. Well, it's another way, and people will break that one, I think. Farewell is a 6-mana sorcery, which can be a board wipe for 1 or more, so you can choose any of them, or all of them, or 2 of them, or 3. Artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or graveyards. So whatever you have less of, you can choose. Greasefang Okiba Boss is a 3-mana red pilot. So pilots is a new type, I think. These ones are able to crew vehicles better. At the beginning of combat on your turn, return target vehicle from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this Greasefang is really good at making or repairing vehicles. It gains haste, return it to the owner's hand at lets you skip the legend rule, meaning that you can make a mirror version of any legendary. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1, so it's really legendary tribal. And each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature, meaning that it also works a little bit with non-legendary creatures. But you mostly want to use this with the red decks and stuff that all have all the same creatures, because it's really tribal for that. Then we have another March, but we have seen this already. Invoke the Ancients is another invoke. This is the green one, probably way better than the white and the red one. Oh well, maybe not the red one. This one lets you create 2 4/5 green spirit creature tokens, and you may have them have a vigilance, a reach, or a trample counter, and you may choose for both of them. That's really good. Yeah, of course it's better than white. Ogrehead Helm is a 2-mana artifact ogre. It gives +2/+2 as an equipment, and when it is equipped and the creature it's equipped to deals damage to a player, you may sacrifice it, and if you do so, you may discard your whole hand and then draw 3 cards. But the really cool thing is that the helm has legs. I think that's the most important part about this one. Bank Buster we have seen. Search Hacker Mech. That also sounds good. They have some good sounding creatures and vehicles here. A 4-mana one that you have to crew 4/4, so this has to be good. It has menace, and when it ends the battlefield, it deals damage equal to twice the number of vehicles you control to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So, crew for 4, be able to attack with a 5/5 or block, but mostly you want to use it to deal 3 damage to anything for 4 mana. We have seen Katose as well, Rizona as well. This is a different art though. You can see that she has a big mech hand. Ishin we have seen. Kami of Transience. 2-mana spirit. It's a 2/2 with trample, so that's already good. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you may put a +1 counter on it as well, so that's amazing. At the beginning of each end step, if an enchantment was put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn, then you may return the Kami of Transience or Transience from your graveyard to your hand, so this also sticks around really well. Echo of Death's Will is the creature version of Tribute to Horobi. And Tribute to Horobi says 2 times each opponent creates a 1/1 black red rogue creature token. You don't want that, but then you return it back as an Echo of the Death's Will, which should be good. Flying Haste 3/3, okay, good. And then when it ends the battlefield, gain control of all red tokens, so you get the 1/1s back from your opponents. Oh, interesting. But also other reds if they have those. Whenever Echo of Death's Will attacks, there's a green cat that gives opponents reds every turn, so that's interesting. But when this attacks, you may sacrifice another creature, one of the reds probably, if you do draw a card. You do have to attack with it, but it has flying, so you might be able to. And you also want to use this with your ninjas, because it has evasion. Thundering Raiju is a 4-mana spirit. It's a 3/3 with haste, and then when it attacks, which it will probably do because it has haste, you put a +1 counter on target creature you control. Could be Thundering Raiju, which makes him a 4/4, which is already good. Then they deal X damage, where X is the number of modified creatures you control, other than Thundering Raiju, to each opponent. So no targeting, but yeah. Okay, so it will make one of your creatures modified, and then you can deal 1, 2, 3, maybe you will be able to do 4 damage to every opponent or something, and then you of course grow a creature. I think that should be the more relevant mechanic for you. Greasefang we've seen already. The Repairman. Tameshi Reality Architect with a reality chip. 2-3, it's a legendary Moonfolk Wizard. Whenever one or more non-creature permanents are returned to hand, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So you want to have... Oh, you want to return enchantments and artifacts to your hand, then you draw a card. But you can also, for X and white, return a land you control to its owner's hand, return target artifact or enchantment card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Also interesting, we have seen more creatures with one color and then one color in their ability, so they are two colored then. This one is Azorius. Okay, return target artifact with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then return a land you control to its owner's hand. Huh. Okay, so you draw a card because you return the land to hand. This first ability also triggers for your opponents, so that's good. Maybe a bounce deck or something. Here you see the other art as well. We have Surge Hacker, which we have seen, but we haven't seen the alternate art, which shows some surging energy as well. Boseiju reaches skyward, which we have seen from the small roots from the other one. This one says, search your library for up to 2 basic forests, reveal them, put them into your hand. For 4 mana, that's okay. Put up to 1 target land from your graveyard on top of your library. So you really want lands. Exile this saga and then it gets +1/+1 for each land you control and has reach. It's a creature, but it's just a branch. Otherwise, scry 2, then draw 2 cards. Oh, you don't want 1 or fewer cards in your hand. Ah, okay. And then it becomes Vision of the Unspeakable, a 0/0 spirit. But it gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand, which you will have a lot of, probably. Flying and Trample, so it will get in really easily. Again, works well with ninjas, those are really overpowered, I think. Even as her students' minds succumbed to madness, Azami's obsession with the kami of forbidden knowledge only grew. Oh. They shouldn't speak about this, but she does want to. Azusa's Many Journeys. Because she was seeking so much. You may play an additional land this turn, and then you get Likeness of the Seeker, something that is like the Lost One. Whenever Likeness of the Lost One becomes blocked, untap up to 3 lands you control. You want this to be blocked. I ask for nothing more than a new journey and a fresh path to greet my feet when I wake each morning. Azusa. Oh, how cool that we get some flavor from her again. That's cool about these sagas, definitely. We have seen this one already, but here you can see the Echo of the Death's Will. Futurist Operative, so we have some factions here. The Futurists want to use the artifacts and they want them to be usable for everyone. This 4 mana 3/4 becomes a 1/1 human citizen. Oh, and can't be blocked whenever it is tapped. So you can attack with this, it will only be a 1/1, but then you can use ninjas to ninjutsu the guy. And then you can, you also can untap the guy again. So it wasn't blocked, you go to damage, you almost go to damage, and then you pay 3 mana to have a 3/4 again. So it will deal all the 3 damage. Oh, interesting. The Imperials can't arrest you for illegal attack if you never even existed. So he has the invisibility cloak or something, I think. Dokuchi, I will just call him Kuchi, I think, is a 5/5 with ninjutsu for 4. That's it. It's a 6 mana card otherwise, but you will want to use it for the 4 mana ninjutsu. Don't fear the blade, fear the shadows. Look around you. Aki Warpaint is a 1 mana enchantment, which you will want to have in the enchantment decks. You may enchant an artifact, so a vehicle probably, or a creature, as long as it's enchanted. Oh, and it's a creature, it gets +2/+1. So normal vehicles don't get the +1, 2 +2/+1, even though they couldn't use it. Aki paint bright, bold designs on their salvaged Imperial mechs, leaving no doubt as to who they belong to now, which is not smart, but it is fun. Ancestral Katana is a 2-mana equipment, which is not a creature. Whenever Samurai or Warrior you control attacks alone, you may pay 1. When you do, attach the Ancestral Katana to it. It gets +2/+1, so it becomes easier to attach when you attack with it with 1 creature, and then it stays attached, so it will still be useful, and you will have saved some mana. Tempered in Solitude is a 2-mana enchantment whenever a creature you control attacks alone. So again, we see the Samurai attacks alone theme. Exile the top card of your library, you may play the card this turn. So we have seen the 3/3 that really wants to attack alone, maybe that's something, but we haven't seen something that becomes stronger when they attack alone. Well, the equipment helps. Many Master Samurai make pilgrimages deep into the Sokensen Mountains, where they train and meditate in silence, hoping to commune with the Lava Kami, so they can link with them and become stronger because of it. So they hope to commune with the Lava Kami, and they give them the chaotic knowledge. Upriser Renegade is the long hair man. He is a 2-mana 1/3 that gets +2/+0 for each other modified creature you control. So wants to work with equipment dudes. My street, my rules. You picked the wrong neighborhood for a fight. Cool, man. That's so cool. Runaway Trashbot is a 3-mana construct that is 0/4, but it becomes stronger for every artifact and/or enchantment in your graveyard. So could easily be a 3/4 or something for 3, and then it is good. A trample creature. One day it might roll over your foot. The next day, your entire house. Oh dear. Silver Fur Master is a Dimir colored red ninja with Dimir for his ninjutsu cost. And then he is a ninjutsu lord in that other ninja and rogue creatures you control get +1/+1. And ninjutsu abilities you activate cost 1 less to activate. So you definitely want this in the ninja deck, of course, but with the leader of the, with Umuzawa, I don't know his first name anymore. All creatures get ninjutsu for 3, so that is really strong together. Reality Heist is a 7-mana instant where we see Kaido with his Tanuki. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control, so it has affinity for artifacts. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 artifact cards from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Kaido grabbed the chip, hoping it held answers. He likes chips. Prodigy's prototype. So this guy has made this huge mech, and it's a prototype. It looks amazing. 1 white and blue vehicle. Whenever 1 or more vehicles you control attack, create a pilot. Cool. And the pilot again crews for 3, but it's a 1/1. So the pilot can crew more artifacts or vehicles later. And I think it's interesting, you need to be able to crew 1 vehicle, but then you will get more and more pilots, so you can stuff your deck with some more vehicles. Gravelighter, haven't found the real card for it. It's a 3-mana spirit with flying. Whenever it enters, draw a card if a creature died this turn. Otherwise, each player could sacrifice a creature, you as well. So it's a flashback marauder, but also you might be able to draw a card from it that's what you preferred. It appears only to those whose lives are ending, welcoming them to their fate. And interesting that this art did appear in the Kaido story, where Kaido met this spirit. But he still lives, so. Roadside Reliquary is a land that taps for colorless, so that's not good. Let's see. Sacrifice it, draw a card if you control an artifact. Draw a card if you control an enchantment. So, land, colorless land. You may sacrifice it to draw 1 or 2. Travelers who leave an offering may pass freely through the forest Kami's domain. Okay. Okay. Well, it says leave an offering for the spirits. I like that. They're giving more honor to the spirits. And Ristic Studies made a video about this. I think this really fits into that philosophy of the new Kamigawa. Tawashi Guidebot is a 4-mana guidebot, sort of like the guide from Strixhaven. This one has a rooftop on his head. When it ends the battlefield, put a +1 counter on target creature you control. Could be this one. But that makes it a 4-mana 3/2, so that's not too good. For 4 mana you may draw a card, which costs less to activate for each modified creature you control. You can easily get 4, so this might be free to get you a card every turn. So that, I like it. Nice. Touch the Spirit Realm. 3 mana enchantment. When it ends the battlefield, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature until this leaves. So it is a prison card, but you can also channel it, which means you discard it, and then you may exile target artifact or creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. And channel apparently does not mean that you get to discount the card like the lands did. Roaring Earth is a 2 mana enchantment. Whenever a land ends the battlefield under your control, put a +1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control. So landfall, place a 1/1. Then it has channel, discard it and pay green and X, and then put X +1 counts on target land you control, and it comes to life as the Roaring Earth. Mech Hanger is a land, again colorless, so will really have to impress us. Add 1 mana of any color, okay, which you can spend only on pilots or vehicles, but that is interesting because in those decks you will, well, maybe might want to have 2 colors. Target vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn, so you can pay 4 mana to crew vehicle as well. Don't like it too much. We see Kaido and the Emperor here. It's a 4 mana instant. 2 creatures get +2/+2 until end of turn. And if you control an artifact and an enchantment, so again this thing where you want artifacts and enchantments, those creatures also gain lifelink until end of turn. Okay, sort of saving you. Since Imperial custom strictly forbade the Emperor to reveal her name even to Kaido, her closest childhood friend, she had to suffer him calling her "Your Emperorness" for much of their shared youth. Quirky. Thirst for Knowledge is a 3 mana Tezzeret instant, where we see Tezzeret, and cool because Tezzeret was in the first Thirst for Knowledge. The instant says draw 3 cards and discard 2, and unless you discard an artifact card. So the same effect as the Planeswalker has, just 3 cards instead of 2. Knowledge is the universal currency of the multiverse. It is power, it is freedom, it is possibility itself. Brazalete. This is Spanish, I don't. Replication Specialist is a 5 mana Moonfolk Artificer, 3/4 with flying. That is also already good, or okay at least. Whenever a non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, okay, you may pay 2 and create a copy of it. Okay, nice. That's really strong. Step 1 is innovation, step 2 is production. Sometimes step 1 is optional. Dangerous card, but can be really strong. Discover the impossible. We had the unspeakable before. This is discover the impossible. I don't know what's happening here. Fish. 3 mana instant, look at the top 5 cards of your library. Exile one of them face down and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if it's an instant spell with mana value 2 or less. So that only saves you 2 mana. If you don't, put the card into your hand. Oh, so you exile it, then you may pay it if it's an instant with 2 or less mana value, and otherwise you draw it. So it will be draw, and you can look at a lot of cards so you can make sure that it's a 2 mana instant, but then you pay 3 mana for a 2 mana instant. Buh. Buh. Skyblast Samurai is a samurai that is flying on one of these slugs. I think it's a moth. It should be a moth. It's a 7 mana enchantment creature, human samurai. It costs 1 less for each enchantment you control. Okay, so it can be really cheap, and then it's a 4/4 with flying. Okay, that's strong. Imperial Samurai who show exceptional honor and dexterity are invited to train as moth riders, so it is a moth. Elite guards charged with protecting the skies of a Ganyo. Moth riders were in the previous stories as well. Mobilizer Mech is a 2 mana artifact vehicle that you have to crew for 3, and whenever it becomes crewed, up to 1 other target vehicle you control becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So you can crew another big vehicle as well. Spinning Wheel Kick, green, and XX. So a lot of mana to go into this, but green is the color of mana and definitely in the set. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each of X target creatures and or planeswalkers. So could kill 2 or 3 creatures in green. Members of the Order of Jukai commune with Kami to enhance their martial prowess. Oni called Anvil, so the Oni things definitely always look like this. It's Rakdos for an artifact. Whenever one or more artifacts you control leave the battlefield during your turn, create a 1/1 colorless artifact creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Okay, so you can keep getting the 1/1s back at least. Okay, and you can sacrifice an artifact, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain a life. You gain a life in Rakdos. A Ganyo Exemplar is a 2 mana enchantment creature human samurai again. Whenever it attacks alone, so it's the attack alone thing, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. A 3/2. Imperial Samurai undergo strict training, honing their skills and purifying their spirits in the hope that they will prove worthy of a Kami blessing. This could deal 3 damage sometime. Aki Ronin is a goblin samurai. Whenever it attacks alone, you may rummage. Carry the heat of the furnace in your steel and never let it fade. Very epic. Kami of Industry. This is a new Kami, I think, because maybe Industry was there before. It's a 5 mana monkey spirit. Not really a monkey. When it enters the battlefield, return target artifact card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, nice. It gains haste. Okay, sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. So a 5 mana 3/6 that gets you a 3 mana artifact back. It takes many arms to arm an army. Arm. Coiling Stalker is a 2 mana snake ninja, and it says when it deals common damage to a player, put a +1 counter on target creature you control that doesn't have a +1 counter on it, making sure that they are modified. Let's skip through these a bit so that we can see if there are some more interesting things that we see. Well, this one, of course, it says the thing. You are already dead, or what was it? Owayamamu Shindaru, so I don't know. Destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn. So it is true to the anime, where they damage someone, they have touched someone, and then later they slice open and their body falls away. Draw a card. Okay. Ooh, a lot of flavor. 5 mana. The Shattered Stage Era. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste. Okay. So the steal a creature thing. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. It's okay as well if you have a lot of goblins. And then you get a 3/3 with trample and haste. Meh. In the wake of the Kami War, Kamigawa descended into a state of constant warfare. But it's interesting that it's a common. Even with Kyodai's wisdom guiding them, it took the first Imperials decades of work and bloodshed to subdue the clans and bring peace to the land. Okay. Another one of these, loot twice, and then it becomes a 2/3 with flying. It drifted from the spirit realm into a neon world full of new possibilities, and decided to stay, which is hard for spirits. Death Touch 1/1. Okay. More of the muffs. These look different than before. 4 mana. Target creature gets +1/+1 and flying until end of turn, so the moths sort of take them up, and then you get a 2/4 with flying, which is okay for 4 mana. The moths of Ganyo were once no different from any other great beast of Kamigawa's wilds. It took years of patience and dedication to convince them to bear riders. They only do this with the most honored people. We have the Fall of Lord Konda. It's a 3 mana, exile target creature an opponent controls with mana value 4 or greater. That's already a 3 mana ability. Each player gains control of all permanents they own. Could be. And then you get a 1/3 with Defender when the dice draw a card. That's okay. For its transgressions against the Kami, Lord Konda's immortal body was turned to stone, then shattered into 1,000 still living pieces. Damn, he was still living, and maybe he still lives. Portrait of Michiko. Portrait of Michiko is a transformed version of Michiko's Reign of Truth. So she brings truth to the people. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each artifact and or enchantment you control. Twice. And then you get a 0/0 that gets the same thing. Okay, long ago, as the first mortal to bond with Kyodai, Michiko Konda brought an end to the Kami War and guided Kamigawa into an age of truth and harmony. True. Ninjutsu 3/1. Naomi, Pillar of Order, is an uncommon. That's 5 mana for a 4/4. Whenever they enter or attack, if you control an artifact and an enchantment, create a 2/2 samurai. So you need a lot of stuff, and then you might get a 2/2. Progress comes only when we rise above our petty quarrels. Really hard to use. Kappa are back. They have been extinct, but now they are not. Could happen sometimes. 2 mana Turtle Ninja. It's a ninjutsu 1. It enters with a Death Touch, and this one has the thing where when it deals damage to a player, you may remove one of those. And when you do, this time you get to exile an artifact or enchantment. That's interesting from that player. Okay, so it destroys boats or something. Jukai Naturalist is a 2 mana lifelink 2/2. That's okay. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's really good. He had heard rumors of the cities, the constant noise, the stagnant air, the tainted water, and he had no wish to learn if they were true. So he has never seen a city. Wow. What a naturalist. Historian's Wisdom is a 3-mana enchantment. Are there rumors of cities? Everyone knows that they are there, right? But when he enters, if enchanted permanent is a creature with the greatest power among creatures on the battlefield, draw a card. So you make the biggest creature even bigger. As long as enchantment permanent is a creature, it gets +2/+1. So works on vehicles. Don't think that's the point. Hotshot Mechanic is a pilot. It does the same as all other pilots. It crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater, so 4. If your mech is factory standard, you might as well be walking. That's a hotshot thing to say. High speed hoverbike. Heiko Yamazaki, the general. I prefer to let my swords do the talking. A 3/3 with trample for 4 mana. When a samurai or warrior attacks alone, you may cast an artifact card from your graveyard this turn. Okay. Bringing back swords, probably. Gloom Shrieker, a cat beast. That's not in green-white, what a shame. A 2/1 with menace. When it enters, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay. If it would die, exile it instead, because you don't want these to go infinite. Generous Visitor is a 1-mana spirit. Really cute, sort of acorn spirit. Whenever you cast an enchantment, put a +1 counter on target creatures. Doesn't have to be on the Generous Visitor. It gives away his gifts. It is said that one must modestly refuse a gift 3 times before accepting it, to show humility before the kami. So don't accept it right away. Bronzeblade Boar is a 3-mana equipment board that is a 3/3 with trample, or it gives the same things to another creature. Another one of the kawaii creatures. This one is a ninja with ninjutsu for 2. It sort of steals light from something here. Whenever it deals common damage to a player, you may put an artifact card with mana value less than or equal to the damage that was dealt from your hand onto the battlefield. So you kind of want to grow this, but otherwise you can get some smaller artifacts into the battlefield. That's good. Circuit Mender is a 3-mana insect artifact creature. It gets you 2 life, and when it leaves the battlefield, so you can blink it too, you draw a card. Okay. Born to Drive. 2 mana, destroy a tapped creature. Good. Then if you control an artifact and an enchantment, get another samurai. I don't know how easy that will be. It really depends on that. When the Awakened Awareness aura enters the battlefield, you may put X +1 counters on enchanted permanent. And as long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it has base power and toughness 1. So that it doesn't get too strong too quickly. Assassin's Ink is a Inkmancer, a 4-mana instant that gives tattoos. The spell costs 1 less if you control an artifact and 1 less if you control an enchantment, so it could be 2 mana, and destroy target creature or planeswalker. Specific, but might be cheap, and I think it will be good in draft. That's it. We have seen this. We've seen this. We haven't seen this. Brilliant Restoration. A white, return all artifact and enchantment cards from the graveyard to the battlefield. Whoa, that's strong. This should have been the white invoke card. Reality Chip, which we have seen in the story. It's a 2-mana card that lets you look at the top of your library anytime. Wow. Wow. It can also be equipped to a creature, and when it is, or attached, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library as well. Otherwise you can just look, which is also sometimes nice. Thousand-Faced Shadow is a 1 mana human ninja that is way more expensive to ninjutsu in. Why? Well, it has flying as well. Why? I don't know. When it ends the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, when it enters attacking. So when you did ninjutsu it in, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. The token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking, and you keep the token as well. So that's why it is more expensive, because otherwise it's just a 1/1 with flying that helps you, well, ninjutsu other creatures in. Or when you do ninjutsu this in, you get a copy of another creature. Interesting. Works in any way for your ninjutsu decks. Teachings of the Kieran is a card that says mill 3 cards, create a 1/1. Create a 1/1. Put a +1 counter on target creature you control. So for 2 mana you will have a 2/2, which is always okay.